Hello, welcome back to my channel, Inflightmuzik. My name is Ian, and today I want to introduce to you the latest update from ARTURIA Pigments 2. And if you're looking for more FL Studio and music production tips and tricks, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time I make a new video. So if you're not familiar with ARTURIA Pigments, it's their flagship wavetable synthesizer. But it doesn't just do wavetable synthesis, it also does subtractive, additive, wavetable, and now it also does granular synthesis. So I'm just going to go over the newest features that have been updated in Pigments 2, and then we're going to demo some of my favorite presets that have been added to version 2. So if you're familiar with ARTURIA Pigments, you know that it has 2 playback engines, and one of the biggest things that they updated, you can see here, this is where you select the different type of engine. So you have your analog synthesis, wavetable synthesis, and sample. But now they have 6 different sample slots. So you could do some powerful layering inside of ARTURIA Pigments. You can select any of these slots, A through F, and then at the top here, you can select all the different samples that come with ARTURIA Pigments 2. And of course, you can import your own sounds here, which is what makes sample engines so powerful inside of a synth. But they've also added granular synthesis. So let's go ahead and load up one of their samples. Let's load up Magic Bell and take a listen to this. And now let's turn on granular synthesis. Now let's turn up the density frequency here. You could change the direction, the size time, and then you could cycle through your sample with the start time. Reminds me of some Pink Floyd actually right there. That's the cool thing about granular synthesis. It can create sounds that you could never come up with normal synthesis. So the sounds tend to be very exotic. They're great for layering with other traditional sounds just to give more texture and character to more traditional styles of sound design. Moving on, they've also revamped their sequencer. If you click this tab at the top, you'll come to this page. You could select the sequencer here. And in the past, if you wanted to randomize any of these things, it would completely randomize it. But now you have the ability to set your variables however you like. And based off of what you decided to do in your sequencer, you could actually adjust how random the sequence gets in relation to your settings. So if you hover your mouse over this dice icon, you could see that you can adjust the amount of randomness that you get. And of course, going all the way up to 100%, that will make your sequence completely random, just like it used to. Now, if you know anything about me and sound design, you know that I tend to judge the synth not just on the oscillators and the options, but I judge heavily on the filters themselves. And ARTURIA is actually known for creating digital versions of vintage hardware. So if you own any of their plugins, like any of the synths from their V collection, you're probably very familiar with how well they emulate some of the characteristics of the actual hardware. And one of the things that they do very, very well is their filtering. We have quite a few different types of filters, the SEM, Matrix 12, the Mini, which is derived from your ladder filters from the Mini Moog, which is an absolute classic. But they've also added this low pass gate, which is based off of the Buchla easel synth. So this particular mode has both a VCA and a low pass filter. A VCA is basically controlling the amplitude of the signal going through. So I have a saw wave loaded up here. That way we have a lot more frequencies to work with. When we switch to VCA, you'll see that it's mainly just controlling how much of the volume is coming through. And for low pass, it's actually filtering out frequencies. But you can use both at the same time, which just creates a more dramatic effect with your filtering. Now in the effects section, they've included a new tape echo effect, which has some saturation in it. So let's go ahead and load one of those up. I'm going to turn off this reverb and let's load up tape echo, and you could visually see the level of delay that occurs over time. So if you turn up this intensity, you could see that the echoes get louder and louder versus one small echo. And by controlling this input volume, you can adjust the amount of saturation on each of these delays versus You can hear each of those delays just get a nice layer of saturation, some warmth, and a little bit of high-end fuzz. It just gives your delays a lot more character. And for those of you that own keyboards like the Rolly series, Pigments has included the ability for MPE MIDI, which stands for MIDI Polyphonic Expression, and that allows your keyboard to have multiple dimensions of articulation and sound if you have an MPE compatible device, like a Rolly C board. But now let's get into the new presets that are included in Pigments 2. So let's click on the Pigments 2 bank, and you'll see that I've highlighted all of my favorites. And you can see that there are plenty of sounds in here that I personally do plan on using. If you watch my channel, you know that I mainly work with trap beats. So I want to point out that there's quite a few wavetable synthesizers that are out there. However, for modern trap production, they sometimes sound incredibly digital, really clean, and for modern dark trap, you want a more analog type feel, a dirtier sound. And that's not to say that you can't achieve those with any synth. Just compared to what I found in Pigments, it just takes a lot more work, especially with the presets that come with a lot of those synths. And then there's other wavetable synths that are a lot easier to produce those type of sounds. But for modern trap, they're starting to sound a little dated. And with Pigments 2, I'm finding that a lot of these presets in here, with just one or two tweaks, whether you're using the macro knobs down here or the mod wheel, I'm finding that these presets that come with Pigments 2 work really well for dark trap. Now you can see that a lot of these presets are high on CPU in my computer, but keep in mind that my computer is a little over 10 years old. Combining that with my screen recording software, I'm having playback issues that I'm sure most of the majority of the audience that's watching will not have. So yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea of what I was talking about in terms of the type of sounds that you get out of Pigments versus other wavetable synthesizers, I feel like others are more geared towards the really digital, clean sounding EDM style synthesis and sound design, while Pigments still finds a way to maintain that analog, organic feel to a lot of their sounds. And a lot of that is due to their sample engine and their filters. And now that they've included granular synthesis, there's a lot more that you can do in terms of adding textures and interesting layers to your sound design. So according to YouTube, the next video you should watch is here on your left. And if you like this video, you should definitely check out the video on your right as well. I make new videos every week, so remember to turn on notifications so that you are notified every time I drop a new video. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.